You need to switch your PAX tree right now. All right, so last night on stream, we did a lot of testing with a lot of different skill trees, a lot of different PAX trees, a couple different weapon mods, etc., and we came to the conclusion that this is the best setup, especially for newer players, especially if you're having trouble finding optimal gear and getting through those trials and expeditions without dying. Most of the runs are highlighted over on my Twitch channel, so if you want to go over there and watch the full unedited runs, you can do that as well. But I'm going to have some gameplay in the background. All of these builds are very similar. Middle tree, bottom tree, top packs, bottom packs, etc. But I believe this one edges all the rest. So let's go ahead and jump into it. At the end of this video, I'm also going to show you guys all my mods and give you a heads up on which ones I think are the most important for the build to perform well. So first things first, you guys already know the skills, all of that. I have so many turret videos that you guys could go back and watch all of those as well. But this is the skill tree that we landed on that is going to give us the best results, the most bang for our buck, the fastest speed runs, the fastest boss clears, etc. You can move maybe the 10% afflicted to freeze its fracture over to your marked for execution, but I don't think the extra few percent is worth it. I think the 10% to freeze is a little more valuable to us, but this is the tree, pretty much similar to what I was already running in my initial turret video. However, the PAX tree is where it gets a little crazy. We get a little crazy, a little wild. So you guys already know that lethal devices is super important for turret techno because we're using our cold snap and our turrets and everything is doing toxic to the enemy as well as freeze. So we're still sticking with lethal devices. We learned that that's pretty important. However, bottom tree going down to burrowing charge was doing a lot of damage as well. It's really great on just deleting elites because your critical shots are going to give them that extra anomaly power. So that was kind of nice, but I think for overall clear speed of ads and stuff, lethal devices just edges it out a little bit. The hasten influence was also really nice to get that cooldown, but yet again, it's just better just to dot all the enemies instead. However, instead of spreading different additional statuses and then doing more damage to enemies for every status inflicted on them, which for the most part is about like a 20 to 25% bonus unless you're playing with a group, and then maybe it's a little bit more. We're going to go down here for the skill leech. So every 5% of your missing health increases your weapon leech and skill leech by 5%. And then we go down here to override, which says that your anomaly power is increased by 100% of your skill leech. So our current bonus is 56%. So we're getting 56% bonus anomaly. And that ends up being about 500,000 for me. I'm at 1.8 without that, and then I'm at 2.3 with that, just sitting here not doing anything, just base anomaly power. And then you could see our skill damage bonus here. Our resistance pierce is 40% because we are in that bottom tree, which is another important thing. And our skill life leech is 56.5. Our status power is fairly low, to be honest. You could bump that up as well, but I haven't gotten the perfect pieces yet. So this build runs a 330 Boomtown easily with without perfect gear. So it's pretty great. But in my opinion, this is the way to do your PAX tree. If you're doing turret techno, I think it is a really great way to go. Like I said, I have the videos of trying top tree packs and also going into mid tree here to get the capstone down here. And this skill tree and PAX tree combo just performed a little bit better. Not much. It's very, very similar. So it's not like you have a bad build if you're doing anything else, but this is what I found works the best for me. All right, so now that you guys know the trick to getting lots of skill leech and lots of anomaly power because of the skill leech, let's go into the weapons and the mods and everything and what I think is number one most important. So for our weapons, we have a Thunderbird with Storm Whip and Firestorm. This is more just to dot them with the Firestorm and get that started and going around. If you have a Sunfall, that's what the Firestorm originally comes on. I just got this Thunderbird with Firestorm on it, which is pretty nice. And then we've got the final penance. Now this is a key weapon for me because it's got Mage's Rage, Fortress, and Omen. It is my stat stick for my anomaly power. The other option is also going with Death Ray. You can get Death Ray, Fortress, Mage's Rage, which is pretty nice. However, I've really come to love Omen. Omen is so nice for that extra bleed damage. We're doing a lot of status power and damage over time and things like that. So it helps us kind of move through the area quickly, which you would probably say, well, why not take top tree packs to spread more status effects? But this is all we need, really. We get toxic, bleed, vulnerability, and freeze on the enemies 4 statuses right away. We don't really need the 5th one. It's not going to do that much more for us, so it's better to go in that lower PAX tree. The other option for this weapon is going to be putting Noxious Spawns in the middle there, so that you'd be running a Mage's Rage, Omen, and Noxious Spawns, or a Fortress, Omen, Noxious Spawns, something like that. Noxious Spawns is always going to move towards the enemy with the highest health, so it's a nice way just to be, as you're shooting, it's also going to other enemies and hitting other enemies. It's 3 anomaly projectiles, and it's going to be a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage. It also applies toxic to the target and to the enemies within that 1 meter range. Now, if you have lethal devices on, and you also have a cold snap that has an increased radius like I do, you don't necessarily really want to use Noxious Spawns with lethal devices because everything's already going to have toxic anyway. So you're going to be just refreshing that duration on the toxic and not necessarily getting those dots to go on the toxic. And with lethal devices, remember, if that toxic gets refreshed, you get that additional anomaly power if you're refreshing it with the skills. So you don't necessarily want to be refreshing it with your weapon, which is why I say to use Fortress over Noxious Spawns. However, Noxious Spawns is really nice because it targets the enemy, tracks to the enemy, etc., and you don't have to get crits. The other nice one is Dimensional Rockets, kind of acts the same way, right? It's closest enemies, not the enemies with the highest health, and also Noxious Spawns is on a little bit longer of a cooldown. Anyway, bottom line, I really like Noxious Spawns. Now let's do a quick overview of the gear. So for our helmet, I've actually swapped it up to Cranium of a Lost Creature because this has skill Life Leech. Ideally, I would want a purple helmet probably with anomaly, status power, and skill Life Leech. We don't need any more cooldown. Our cooldowns are already maxed from our gear. The only way to get more cooldown is to go into this point right here, but we're not doing that because we're not in there. You know, we're over here. You could take out the anomaly and the damage to frozen and put them here to get more cooldown. However, you'd be losing out on a pretty nice chunk of damage. So we've got Cranium of a Lost Creature for skill Life Leech. We got Power Assimilation, Arms and Anomaly, and Euthanizer. I have played around with some different mods in here, but I think Arms and Anomaly is really good. It's going to give us a little bit of base damage that our percentages can work off of. For our chest, we've got Double Trouble, Increased Damage, and Icicle Storm. This normally comes with a blighted mod on the top here. It comes with this hazardous modifications. I don't think that really does much damage. My blighted turret is my stat stick to get up to that 50% extra turret damage. So I don't really let it sit out for too long. And I don't think that my blighted turret is doing a lot of damage. It's never in the top of the damage dealt screen. So I replaced that with Double Trouble, which is going to give us 2 barrels instead of 1, a super must have for this build to get your turrets to do a lot of damage. And then Icicle Storm rolled on this in the Apocalypse slot. Super duper lucky. Icicle Storm is a must have for any cold snap build. Then onto the legs, we've got Improved Coolant, which is doubling the fire rate, and then 2 turrets can be placed down. Twins, we've rolled that on there, and then we get Shatter On, which is a super must have as well. Down to the gloves, we got purple gloves. However, you could use the Flame Leopard gloves if you wanted, which also have skill leech and status power if you got a good set of the Flame Leopard. However, the top 2 mods are not going to be both used, but if you get a good Apocalypse mod like the Cold Snap increases the radius or something that you're not using, you could just replace one of these mods and use this in place of purple gloves until you get good gloves. So for right now, we're using Radical Therapy, which isn't the best, but that's what we've got on the Apocalypse slot. Definitely doesn't hurt. We put Tainted Blood on here, which is going to help increase our damage against anybody that we hit with Omen. And then Long Winter increases the radius. Obviously, I'd love to get status power on these gloves as well. And then down to the feet, we are using the Techmonger's foot gear because we're using the Cranium helmet. So this gives us our third piece, and this has skill, life leech, and cooldown. Now, I probably could swap some things around to get a little bit more status power, but this one has such good mods that I haven't been able to give it up yet. We got Unstoppable Force on our Apocalypse slot, and then we've got our Cryo Turret Hail Shot, the status power. This is a must-have mod, and then we rolled Captain Hunter on it. So that's it for the gear. I know I've gone over similar versions of this gear so many times in so many videos. All of the versions are very similar in performance, so it's all up to you based on what type of pieces you get, but hopefully this one's a little bit easier to put together and a little bit more sustainable because of all the skill leech. Right now you'll see kind of the must-have mods versus the nice-to-have mods on the right there, so you guys can kind of pick and choose the pieces that you have and make it work with what you have. You can do this build at lower Apocalypse tiers without all the perfect mods, so don't worry. And if you have something that's not Apocalypse tier, but it's the extra piece for your set, then go ahead and put that on, and that works just as well. All right, guys, this is my last AP Turret Techno video. I feel like I've regurgitated the same stuff over and over, but we keep making changes and updates to making this better. So hopefully this helped you guys out. If you have any questions, definitely comment down below or come visit me over at twitch.tv/abbyhour, and I'll see you guys in the next one.